everybody. My name's Rod Edwards. I'm the Managing Partner for RSM Financial Services. We've had so many questions around COVID-19 and its likely economic impacts, and with so much noise in the press about it also, we've decided to reach out to who we consider as probably the best person to give us some clear answers. Many of you will know of Hamish Douglas. He's the founder, chairman and CIO of Magellan Asset Management, and we're pleased to have him on the line now. Welcome, Hamish.
Rod, it's great to be with you.
Hamish, probably the most asked question by probably a long way is really just how you see the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic evolving across economies and markets.
Well, Rod, the first thing I'd say is we're in pretty uncharted waters here. And I think if anybody thinks they know exactly what's going to happen through this, I would say they're purely just speculating. Nobody knows what's going to happen here. And I would say anyone who's been investing for 50 years, no one in that 50 years would have faced a situation that looks exactly like this. So if people are trying to draw analogies between what happened in 2008 and 2009 or the tech crash or 1987, I'd say all those things are very different to what we're facing here. We still know relatively little about the virus. If you study what people are saying, the health experts, they don't know whether we're going to get a cure, hopefully a therapeutic, but they don't know. They don't know if a vaccine. SARS, we still don't have a vaccine to SARS. Let's hope we get a vaccine for this. We don't know if you've had the virus, whether you can get reinfected or not. So there's just so many unknowns here at the moment. And the response, the healthcare response we're having here, which is effectively shutting economies down, the scale of shutting economies down and losing 60 or 70% of your economic output for a period of time, and what will be the consequences of that when we try and reopen up our economies, we don't have a roadmap. This is far more severe than what happened in 2008 or 2009, and there's just a wide range of outcomes here. There's a possibility, which everybody's hoping for, is a V-shaped economic recovery, that when we open the economies up, everyone will go about their business as they were going on before, and quickly we will resume to the economic scenario we had pre this virus. At the other end of the spectrum is a depression, where the loss in economic activity is so severe and the impact's going to be so severe that we could be a decade of a great downturn. And in between that, of course, there is recession scenarios. People talk about U-shaped recoveries and other letters of the alphabet that people debate. Well, what I would say to you here is I think the policymakers have done enough. The central banks have acted in a very, very speedy and forceful way to head off a collapse of the financial system. I think they did learn a lot from 08, 09. They've gone further this time in providing monetary policy support, providing massive amount of liquidity support for markets, and now they're providing direct lending support for the economies. And of course, we've seen massive injections by governments around the world. So the depression scenario looks like that's off the table, but they haven't replaced the entire output gaps here. You know, they are assisting individuals in society for their missing wages, and that is terrific. But there is still a huge amount of this contraction in GDP we're seeing that is going to be borne by business in the world, that isn't being compensated for by governments. Rents aren't being compensated by governments. That burden is being shared between tenants and landlords. That is a loss that they're going to have to take, and they're providing assistance for businesses to get access to credit markets during this downturn, but that means these businesses are borrowing more money. So they're going to come out with impaired balance sheets. So it is very unlikely we're going to get out of this with a huge big bounce back with no damage done in 6 months' time. We would say there's going to be a recession. We just don't know whether that's going to be a short and shallow recession or a deep and prolonged recession. And I would say we don't know, and nobody else knows at the moment. But what the markets are doing at the moment, I don't think should surprise people. The markets have had a very large, initially they panicked, which was understandable. But then we've seen a very large relief rally around the world. And I'd say that is also understandable. They're reacting to what the central banks have done. They're reacting to the huge support which the governments have given. But they're also reacting to now the flattening of the curve and this hope that we're going to open the economies back up and the worst is behind us. So all that is predictable. I would say, given we don't know what the economies are going to look like and how long it's going to take us to get out of this healthcare crisis, the markets may be a little ahead of themselves now. They're feeling relieved, but that relief rally may be a little bit premature at the moment, and it will depend. So I would say to people is, with all these markets rallying, people shouldn't have a fear of missing out here. You know, they shouldn't just join because the markets have gone up. I think a little bit of caution. We need to see how this very unusual situation is going to play itself out. And as Warren Buffett has often reminded people, to finish first, you must first finish. There are scenarios where this could become very, very ugly, and there's scenarios where we could get out of this with relatively limited damage. And I would say to you very honestly, I do not know. And when you don't know, don't get overconfident thinking that you do know.